Hello and welcome, friends. In this session on sampling, we have to discuss the non probability sampling and the various types of non probability sampling techniques that are available to us. We had already discussed the various differences between the probability and the non probability sampling, and then we had discussed within probability sampling the four types that we have: simple random sampling, systematic sampling, the stratified sampling, and the cluster sampling. Now we are moving on to the non-probability sampling techniques. Again, there are four different types of non-probability sampling techniques. Uh, the first one is called the judgment sampling. Why is it called judgment sampling? Because it depends a lot on the judgment of the researcher. For example, suppose you want to conduct a survey and you want to obtain responses from your population of interest is people belonging to the age group 18 to 25 years. So this is your population of interest and you want to administer a questionnaire to respondents from this particular age group, right? Now, as a researcher, you can take a call that such people who belong to the 18 to 25 age group are more likely to be available in the college during the morning hours from 11 o'clock to, let's say, 1 p.m. or 2 p.m. They're more likely to be available in the college, right? So what would you do? You would come to the college and then you will collect the responses. So you have made a judgment as a researcher where your population of interest is more likely to be found, and based on that particular judgment you have come to the college, and that is why it is called judgment sampling. The selection is according to the personal judgment of the researcher. Now please understand, is it always the case that people who belong to 18 to 25 age group, they would always be found in a college? No, they can be spread across the district, they can be spread across the country. You may find some of them uh, to be working in various organizations. You might some of them working as manual workers, manual laborers. You might find some of them working as maybe working in their fields. So it is not always the case that respondent belonging to this particular age category would be found near the colleges. But since you made a judgment that these are more likely, naturally most of the students who would be pursuing their education from a degree college are more likely to be in this particular age group, so you came to the college. That is why it is called judgment sampling. This is fine. And please understand, why is it a type of non-probability sampling? Because those who are studying in the college, they are more likely to be included in your sample. So the probability of their getting included in your sample is much more than the probability of a 22-year-old who is working in his fields in a remote village in Pithoragarh district. He is much less likely to be included in your sample. So the probability, you would recall from our earlier discussion, is that non-probability sampling is not all the population units have the same likelihood of getting selected as the sample. So that is why judgment sampling is non-probability sampling. This is fine. Now let's discuss the second type of non-probability sampling, convenience sampling. Convenience sampling, as the name suggests, the researcher collects the sample according to his convenience. For example, let's take an example. Let's say that you stay, your place of residence is somewhere near the uh, town center, let's say near the district hospital, Pithoragarh district hospital. So you stay near the Pithoragarh district hospital, and then again you are collecting the responses from people in the 18 to 25 age group. Now instead of going to the college, you feel that you find it more convenient to go to the market which is near the district hospital and talk to those people who seem to be belonging to this age group 18 to 25. Now this would be convenient sampling. Convenient sampling, why? Because you found it convenient to collect the sample from the market. Is it always the case that the population of interest is only going to be available in the market? No. The population of your interest, 18 to 25-year old people, they might be in their villages also, they might be in the college also, some of them might be working also, but you went to the market because it was more convenient for you, and that is why this is a non-probability sampling technique. Is this fine? Again, why it is non-probability sampling? Because you find it more convenient, easier to go to the market. So naturally, the respondents who are available in the market, who have come to the market for any purpose, it could be for partying, it could be for purchasing some items, whatever. So if they've come to the market, they are more likely to be selected as your sample. And those who don't visit the market, they are much less likely to be part of your sample. So the probability of those who are visiting the market on a daily basis, the probability of these kind of people of getting selected as your sample is much higher, while the probability of somebody who does not visit the market at all is non-existent, almost zero. This is why it is called non-probability sampling. Is this fine? Now let us discuss quota sampling. What happens in quota? Basically, you understand, you must have come across this word QUOTA, quota. What do we mean by quota? What do we mean by quota sampling? Quotas are assigned to different categories in sample according to their proportion in overall population. Now I'll give you an example. Suppose I have to conduct a exit poll. Exit poll, they are conducted to predict as to which party is going to win how many seats in the legislature, and they are conducted when the voter is exiting the polling booth, and that is why they are called exit polls. So suppose you want to conduct this kind of a research, you want to conduct exit polls, and you want to predict as to which party is going to win the elections. Now, of course, and these are parliamentary elections, so you have to conduct this research throughout the country. You will have to collect the data from across the country. So then you decide, let's say you have decided that your population size is 100, or let's say 130. Your population size is, sorry, your sample size is 130. And then you decide that since Uttarakhand has a population of 1 crore and overall population of the country is 130 crore. So if I'm collecting a sample of 130, if I'm collecting, my sample size is 130, and if I'm collecting data from 130 people, only one of them should be from Uttarakhand. On the other hand, if let's say the population of Uttar Pradesh is 20 crore out of 130 crore population of the whole country, then naturally if I am collecting data from 130 people, my sample size is 130, 20 of them should belong to UP. Now this is what we mean by quota sampling. Here we have assigned the quota. So in 130, that is my sample size, 20 is the quota assigned to UP because the proportion of UP's population in overall population of the country is just this. It is 20 crore out of 130 crore. Likewise, Uttarakhand, the proportion of population of Uttarakhand with respect to the population of the country is just 1 crore out of 130 crore. So out of my sample size of 130, I will collect data only from one individual belonging to Uttarakhand. Is this understood? So this is what we mean by quota. Let me give you another example. For example, if you know that in India 51% of the people are, let's say, I'm just giving a rough figure, 51% of the countrymen are males and 49% are females. So if my sample size is 100, 51 of these 100 would be males and 49 of these 100 would be females. So this is what quota is about, and this is how you conduct your quota sampling. Now we have to discuss the fourth type of sampling, which is called the snowball sampling. Now, have you ever tried to make a snowball? how do you make a snowball? When there is a lot of snowfall, you tend to make snowballs. How do we do that? You keep on gathering snow and you keep on adding more and more snow to it, and then suddenly the snowball becomes really big, and then it actually becomes a big snowball. So this is how you actually make a snowball. And this is exactly why the procedure is called snowball sampling. The procedure in snowball sampling would be almost like making a snowball. How? See, suppose I want to conduct a research with those who consume illegal drugs, illicit drugs. What do I do then? It's very difficult to find out respondents. Naturally, this information is generally not available. Somebody who consumes drug is not going to make it public. Yes, of course, the police may have some data, but this would be the data of only those people who have been apprehended. So it would not contain names of those people who have never been apprehended, who have never been caught. So what do I do? I somehow find my first respondent. I somehow gather this information and somehow find my first respondent who consumes illegal drug. And then I ask him, once I've collected data from him, then I ask him, okay, boss, do you know about anybody else also who consumes these kind of drugs? He might disclose the name of some friend of his or some acquaintance of his who is also consuming drugs. And why would he do that? Because generally people who consume these drugs, they know each other well. Many times this is some kind of a group activity. You consume drugs while you are with your friends, or maybe while you are in a group. So people who consume drugs, they know each other well. Just like people who consume just like people who smoke, they know each other very well. In a batch of maybe 30-50 students, you would find those who like to smoke, they would certainly know each other well. Is this okay? So what I've done here is, I've gone to the first person who consumes drugs. I go to him and then I ask him, once I have obtained all the information, whatever I wanted to obtain from him, once I have got my questionnaire filled, then I ask him to just give me a name of some other guy whom he knows and who also consumes illegal drugs. And then I go to this second guy. And then from this second guy, the same question would be posed to him. Once I have got all the information that I wanted from him, once I've got all my questionnaire, all my questions answered, then I'll ask him, can you refer me to another guy who consumes illegal drugs? This way I will be able to talk to as many respondents as I want. Is this okay? So this is what snowball sampling is about. The same thing has been mentioned here. Have a look. Selection of additional elements is based on referral from initially selected elements. So the initially selected elements are going to refer me to additional elements. So this way my sample would be collected. Is this okay? Specifically used when incidence rate is low. I hope you remember our discussion on what incidence rate is. I had quoted an example there. Owners of Mercedes and owners of bikes, the incidence rate would be much lower for those in the those in the former group. Owners of Mercedes would not be found as frequently as you would find owners of bikes, right? So incidence rate in case of owners of bike is much more. So whenever the incidence rates are low, then naturally it makes sense for you to go for snowball sampling. So naturally, illicit drugs, incidence rates are very low. Not everybody consumes illegal illicit drugs, so there you can go for snowball sampling. Is this okay? However, this is very biased sampling. Why is this biased? Because the initial respondents are referring me to the additional respondents, right? So it is more likely that a person who is known to my first respondent, he is more likely to get selected as part of my sample, while somebody who is not known to the first respondent is less likely to get selected. And that is why again this would be biased sample. Is this fine? And that is again why it is called non-probability sampling. This is again a technique within the non-probability sampling type. Is this okay? Now I hope you have understood what the different types of non-probability sampling techniques we have, and how we can use it, and where we can how we can use them and where we can use them. So thank you very much.